that has been always one of my biggest fascinations, because if these things are sighted all around our nuclear sites on land, what the hell are they doing with the submarines underwater that are loaded to the gills with nukes and are all throughout the oceans?
Yeah.
So like, if I'm one of these guys who spends months on a nuclear submarine in the ocean, I'm sure these guys have to have some incredible stories. Some of them do, but I've never heard one. I've never heard one story.
Well, there's a reason for that. So first off, it's interesting. Let's just look at the data. A lot of these events have happened around nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, right? Theodore Roosevelt, Nimitz.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of activity there. And I have had one report from an officer who was on a boomer, some ballistic missile submarine in the North Atlantic, who observed a contact. I've shared this before, but really quickly, it had the characteristics of basically a Russian torpedo in terms of closing fast and at a high rate of speed and coming at the submarine.
Right.
And so and in an area they wouldn't have expected it. So they did all the procedures to avoid it. They turned around, they dove deep to nearly crush depth. And when the object got close to them, it stopped. And it kind of went around to their stern and followed them for a while and then rapidly exited the area. And he's not sure what to make of that, but there shouldn't have been anything there because it was in the North Atlantic during a 40-foot seas.
Right.
And so that's when there's high ambient noise. And
Wow.
nothing could detect them. Those subs are quiet. And when there's really high ambient noise, they're undetectable. So that couldn't have been a Russian torpedo or high-speed submersible that hadn't even been built yet. So there's nothing he could explain it. So, but I've not heard a lot of other reports from submariners because that is such a classified area because it's nuclear security and it's undersea security. And those are the most highly classified programs in the government. And so I've not been able to crack into them. I was tangentially read into some of that, but and so I know about that, but nothing regarding UAP. But if anything about UAP in the water that data resides anywhere, it's in those programs, and they are locked tight.
Yeah, there's this guy who Jesse also interviewed, Harold Malmgren.
Yeah.
Who said to him, the Office of Naval Intelligence has more data on this stuff than anybody.
Well, right. And he referred to I believe the National...
More than the Air Force.
Yeah. National Underwater Reconnaissance Office.
Yes.
So that's it. I know about them. But again, I've not been able to see that information. He's very credible, and his daughter also served, I think, in the Bush administration and the Reagan administration. Right. And her name is Pippa, and she's terrific too. He was right on. In fact, that's interesting. I've been working on this whole topic of the nuke detonations that brought down some UFOs. And that's what Harold had also talked about.
Right, yes.
And there's a lot of data there too.
So like also a weird thing about being one of those guys on the submarines is like you can't really see it. No, you're relying on radar or how does that work? Well, what other kinds of tools do they have?
Sonar.
So how accurate can you get with something? Like how much can you find out about an object that's around a submarine, but with just the tools that they have available to them?
It's difficult, and you don't want to go active. So active is how you can really characterize how large it is and potentially even its shape, but that's going to reveal your locations. That's something submarines generally don't do.
Going active.
Using active sonar, meaning pinging, sending out a transducer.
So they're making their location available to other subs.
Right. Now you can use that. I did my PhD work on this. You can use an active sonar signal, bounce it off an object, and it comes back, and you can use that just like radar. It's the same principle, but with sound instead of EM energy, to characterize an object, its shape, if it's moving, if it's in its structure, and we have high frequency sonars that do this really well. In fact, we use them to map the seafloor and characterize shipwrecks. NOAA does great work, but again, submarines generally don't want to do that because that reveals their location. So they normally are staying passive, and it's very difficult to characterize an object passive because of you're only hearing the sound they emit, which is either from engineering or flow noise around the hull of the vessel or vehicle.
That incident you were just explaining to me where they thought it was a Russian torpedo, did they go active there?
No, no.
Whoa.
So they were just listening, and they dived in.
They dove super deep though.
Yeah.
And they thought they were getting
dangerously
chased.
so. They were convinced they were going to get hit. They were doing all the things to prepare for getting hit and doing the damage control necessary. Yeah, because they'd never seen anything like this, and they had trained for Russian torpedo attacks. This was everything like it. So he called me up after I went public on this information, because he said, I just got to tell you about this experience.
Wow.
So we stay in touch. There was another one I think I shared about it also, where someone has called me up and said, hey, I was one of these acoustic intelligence specialists, and we were on one of these ships that does this. They look for enemy submarines by doing two things. They first send out it's a high energy active pulse, and then they listen in low frequency. It's low frequency active, they call it. So high energy, low frequency pulse, long range, and it'll always get a bounce off a submarine. And that's how you find them. And then what you do is you listen passively to characterize the type of contact. So every type of adversary platform, whether it be a Russian submarine or a Chinese submarine, we know their signature. We know how, and it's by the hull, the actual hull number. We know they sound like the screws, the engineering equipment, the flow noise.
Wow,
it's pretty good. It's kind of like your fingerprints acoustically. That's some of the most classified information out there. Because we can't, if we reveal that, we reveal our sources, the people who found this information, and that would get them killed. But that's how we in the field know, that's the Russian whatever. And so that's what we've done. The whole Cold War was built on that. Some of Blind Man's Bluff is about that.
Oh,
but ultimately,
really?
this guy shared with me that he was out there in Japan in the, I forgot, the 2000s, and they found twice a really loud hit when they went active, and they switched on to passive. And this is what they do. Every time they'll get a passive hit, and they know, okay, it was either exercise they did on one of our subs, or they're out there listening for Chinese. It's one of theirs. And they had nothing. There's no passive hit. But they had a super loud active hit. What does that mean?
What does that mean?
It means there was something big in the water moving, because it wasn't there later, and it had no engineering components making noise. What the fuck is that?
And then it was gone.
It was in the water column. So whales don't do this, by the way. They're soft. They don't reflect sound pulses at that kind of amplitude or that source level. So it's again, these are people who had anomalous observations and experiences, and after I testified, they just wanted to call me and say, hey, I saw this. And in fact, non-underwater, but very cool. After my last testimony, probably one of the neatest encounters or eyewitness encounters I had was this. I went and gave a talk. I always say yes to anybody, any university who wants me to talk about this topic, because that's how we're gonna turn the tide. It's the next generation who are not so stigmatized about this. So any university I went to Yale. They have a UFO society, and I give a talk, and this guy comes down, he's getting his graduate degree, and he goes, hey, I want to tell you a story. Okay. He said, I was a Navy air crew on a SH-60 Seahawk helicopter flying off the Dwight D. Eisenhower in 2021. And he said, a lot of the guys had filmed on forward-looking infrared UAP. In fact, they had a folder on their secret drive, and they called it range foulers. And this is a funny term, because it's so the term in the Navy for anything not right, like a fouled anchor, then you use that for everything. Okay,
right.
Foul the range, right? Like a fouled anchor. And what's fouling the range? UFOs. So they had this whole file on all these UFO videos they had taken, and they kind of used that name as a sort of joke, but ultimately they were keeping track of this stuff. And so everybody knew about it, but no one talked about it in the ready room. The skipper said, hey, we're not. We all know it exists. We're just going to live with it. No one really is asking us to report it. And so, but then there was a point in 2021 where the Joint Chiefs, based on pressure from Congress, directed everyone to start reporting. So that's what they started doing, collecting the videos, sharing them with the intelligence officer, with DIA. And he said one night he was there was going to be a drill to do a man overboard, and that's where they normally, off a helicopter carrier, you don't launch a boat. You launch a helicopter. It's a lot safer and easier. It's hard to launch.
Really?
Yeah. You don't launch a boat off a helicopter, because the flight deck is something like 60 feet off the water line. So that's the MO. You launch a helicopter to recover the man overboard.
Okay.
So this was his job. He was a crew chief, and he thought there was going to be an exercise. Well, he got woken up one night, and they didn't say it was an exercise. So he thought, oh my God, it's a real world event. What had happened is he's waiting to get the plane ready, and one of the pilots had some NVGs, and he asked him, what's going on? He goes, put these on. Look up there.
Night vision goggles?
Yeah, night vision goggles. Look up there. And he saw flying over the character, really just slowly moving laterally, a metallic sphere about the size of a smart car. Just moving slowly, like the Mosul orb, like that, but at night. And everyone was tracking it. Basically, it was in the middle of the strike group, and everybody was basically saying, what the heck is that? So they launched the helo to get video of it. And his crew chief has taken video of this thing, and it's just moving slowly. There's no signs of propulsion or flight control surfaces, it's just a sphere. And then after a time, it did what all these UFOs do. It just accelerated instantaneously and went over the horizon.
Wow.
And he said, not only did that happen a lot, he said that the guys in this other squadron that embarked on the Gerald Ford, the other carrier that deployed after them, happened all the time too. So the Navy is sitting on a trove of UFO data, videos, just as you said ONI is. I mean, these are all sources coming to me saying it's all there and it's all real.
There was also a video that I saw. I don't remember off what boat, what ship it was, but there was a video of like this orb hovering above the waves, and you could hear people talking about it in the background. They were like, and then it splashed, like, oh, it splashed down, or whatever, it like disappeared.
So let me tell you about that.
Okay.
This is great because the petty officer on the bridge of that ship, the USS Omaha.
Omaha, okay.
He's come out actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, his name is Senior Chief Petty Officer Alex Wiggins. And he came to me. So after at one point, I think maybe the Sean Ryan show I was on or something, and he basically wanted to make that report to me. He was on the bridge then. And what's interesting is I know how it is on a bridge, and the procedure is, that's like a code word. It wasn't just, they weren't saying, hey, it's splashed in the water. If an object is seen to enter the water, typically it's because it crashed, an aircraft. Or possibly a decoy or something. That's sort of a code. That is a code word used in the Navy. That something is encountered the water, and so that's why they said splash. Like that is a term that the log keeper put in the log.
Right.
So it's official. It's not just it's splash. It's actually an official term. Right. And so when that happened, and that's why it was so weird because it wasn't a helicopter. It was hovering, but you didn't see blades. It was spherical, and it went into the water. What's up with that? And,
is this it?
That's it. That's it right there.
Well, give us some volume.
Oh yeah, they're on the Omaha. These are my people. I stood many hours of bridge watch.
Oh look, he's filming the screen. Whoever made this video, they're filming another monitor.
Yeah, that's right.
Did they get in trouble for that?
Omaha, pick me kid, Rafael Peralta, pass.
So far, not that I know of.
Helo, ASAP.
Helo ASAP?
Yeah, they wanted to go interrogate the target.
Keep going, bro. Let's wait on it.
We're making sense. We could probably bring back 35 relatives.
Windy as fuck outside.
Sir.
Yeah, I'll bring it down.
Is this boat moving right now?
Yes, she was underway.
Oh,
Okay.
It's getting close.
Yeah, we have 31 knots sustained wind, topside, gust of
31 knots.
It's pretty windy.
That's windy.
Splashed. Mark bearing and range.
Yep, they're following their standard procedures. Good job, guys.
That's why.
So I have been on the bridges of several ships, hundreds, thousands of hours of bridge watch. So those are folks I supervised. And that petty officer who was on the watch there, he called me, talked to me about that experience. He said we were seeing them all the time. He said,
really?
He said, sir, this is so frequent off SoCal, we're desensitized to it.
What?
Yes, seriously. And so you might have seen Jeremy Corbell had released video from the USS Jackson, same petty officer who gave it to him, because he came to me and he shared me on Signal that video, and I said, and Jeremy of course said I'd love to talk to him, and I asked him, are you okay with that? And he said sure. So he shared.
Is this guy still active? Or is this guy?
He's still active duty. Yeah, I'm a little surprised, but that
he hasn't been outed.
No.
They don't know that he's the one that's
well, he did it as a private citizen. I know he talked to the Navy lawyers.
Yeah.
which are probably a lot looser than the Air Force lawyers. So either way, he got it cleared. And I think that's really significant. I need to have a talk with him about that. But a terrific guy, and he's one of many sailors right now, former or still active duty, that are seeing these things. And that's what I've been trying to do.
What do these guys think they are? Do you talk to them about it? We're like, what do you think about it? What do you guys talk about on the flight deck?
It's like everybody in the public. It's a range of ideas, and some people are really care. But that one crew chief who came to me after he left the Navy, he said this really affected him because normally he'd heard talk of it, but he'd never seen it. And when he saw it, he realized, like I did when I saw the video of the Go Fast when it was still classified, I immediately knew that's not ours. That's not our adversary tech, because I know adversary tech. I've been read into all that stuff, and we're not alone. There's something. I don't know what they're doing. Don't know their intent, especially with nukes. That's pretty scary, but we're being monitored.
I'm skeptical of the Go Fast and the gimbal videos.
Oh no, I'm not at all.
Really?
No, I mean I saw the Go Fast. I mean that's, by the way, if you look at the Go Fast, yeah, it wasn't going that fast. Okay, it's just relative, but the point of
for the reason is the plane is flying really fast in one direction.
Yeah.
And there's something flying the opposite direction, and with the parallax of the ocean behind it, it's totally plausible. It would look like it was going 1,000 miles per hour.
Yeah, but it wasn't. So it was nicknamed the Go Fast. That wasn't what was anomalous about it. So Ryan Graves, have you had him on your show?
I have.
He's great.
I've talked to him a few times.
He was out there. They were seeing these things all the time, and in that one instance, it wasn't just one; it was in a formation. So how do you explain that?
I've talked about some things. I'll talk to you about it after we do the show. Of some other reasons why I'm really skeptical about those videos.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't really. I'm in like the Tic Tac. Well, here I got something to share with you. So everyone wants to kind of dive into any given video, but what you really need to think about is the whole collective body of evidence. I'm reading a book now by Jacques Vallée, who you should have on your show.
I'd love to.
He's terrific, and
can't get a hold of him.
Okay.
He's in high demand. I'm not pushing it.
Well, I just had a great exchange with him recently.
Really?
Yeah, I'm on a group with him, and I'll ask him if he's going to be in this area ever. And so ultimately, he wrote this book, The Invisible College. It was at 69 or something, or 75. I forgot which. I'm losing track because his body of work is so huge, and he just compiles thousands of these eyewitness accounts, and they're so bizarre. And so I don't know. First, there's two things: the Go Fast and gimbal. They look pretty odd. These are pilots seeing these things, talking about them. They are in that airspace everyday training. If it looks unusual to them then they're probably right in terms of can't characterize it, don't know what it is. Those guys are out there in the airspace all the time. Now, people say, oh, that was a U.S. tech demo, just like the Tic Tac. Now, in my experience here, what happened for me is I was under Fleet Forces Command, the 4-star Admiral in Norfolk, and I supervised all the weather guessers and oceanographers in the Navy, and they were on the ship weather forecasting, the Roosevelt. So I had some authority and responsibility for what was going on there, and I get this email from the ops officer at Fleet Forces Command who's overseeing the training exercise the Roosevelt was in, and he sends it to every subordinate commander, me, the strike group commander at the time, other strike group commanders, other commands like the Navy Safety Center who reported to him, and the title of it was all caps, Urgent Safety of Flight Issue, and attached was the Go Fast video, and this was over the Navy secret network in 2015 before it was leaked or declassified. And he said basically, if any of you know what these are, tell me ASAP. We're having numerous near-midair collisions. Remember, Ryan talked about a section of aircraft being split, which is absolutely crazy from a safety standpoint. You don't want aircraft to be within a mile of you. If you're, and so he said, tell me ASAP, inferring. And he said, we might have to shut down the exercise if this still happens, if this keeps occurring. The implication was, if this is some crazy U.S. tech demo and I don't know about it, the 2-star in charge of the exercise, or the 2-star supporting the 4-star in charge of the exercise, he said, I need to know now, because when aircraft carriers train deploy like this, it's very compressed. Every pilot has to get certified to land on a flight deck. Every ship has to check a box about what they're doing. Can they do underway refueling? Can they perform these weapons launches and et cetera? So there's all these evolutions you have to be able to prove you can do before you go deploy. So there's no time to mess around. And the 4-star that I worked for, every week he'd hold meetings with all his subordinates. I was one. And all they talked about was the training cycle, where we were, anything interfering with it. It was the number one job of that 4-star, train forces to deploy. So when you have something effing with a training event, that's a big deal. And what happened is that video and that email, the next day it was wiped from my computer, and he never talked about that UFO encounter. So what was going on there? Well, it was obviously classified. Was it a classified U.S. tech demo? I really doubt it, because again, you got the 4-star and all those 1-stars and all these forces, these ships getting ready to deploy. We don't do tech demos in training ranges. That's what we do that in instrumented test ranges, where we can gather all the data and say that worked, that didn't. And so I don't know, the premise of the Tic Tac and the Go Fast being tech demos in training ranges, that just doesn't fly with me. I don't know. Now, there is this possibility that's been floated out there. Maybe they did do that. That they wanted that kind of real world sort of simulation. But in all my years in the Navy, we didn't I never saw that happen. When we get into that topic of aliens, non-human intelligence, all you need to do is go scuba dive a coral reef. There is such a diversity of non-human intelligence there. And I don't know if you've met Avi Loeb. He's a great guy, and I like the way he thinks. He says, hey, here we are. The universe is 14 billion years old. The Earth is 4.6 billion years old. And why would, if life has evolved here, so we know it's a property of the universe, why wouldn't intelligent life have evolved elsewhere? And we see it here, all sorts of non-human intelligence on a coral reef and elsewhere. I went diving in the Galapagos for one, and that's remarkable. So why not elsewhere? And I think that's something that resonates with me, that argument. It makes a lot of sense. In fact, he likes to say, why would it be extraordinary to say there's intelligent life elsewhere? It'd be extraordinary if it weren't.
Right. Yeah. Also, the deeper you get in our oceans, the more alien.
Oh my God,
the things look.
Yeah, so I love this because this ocean exploration program at NOAA, that's what they do. They go down with a 6,000 meter rated ROV, and they're constantly exploring and looking for new species, and they're finding them. We are finding new species every year, and they're just bizarre. I mean, they are absolutely alien looking. I mean, honestly, Hollywood hasn't dreamed up stuff as weird as what we see in the sea. Yeah.
How deep do those vents get? Those thermal vents? How deep are those?
Well, they're over at least. Well, some are 4,000 meters or more.
Right.
They're different ones.
Right.
But ultimately, that life on some of those is very weird because they're chemosynthetic, and so they're not like us. They're not. They're using I forgot the different chemicals, but they're not necessarily oxygen. They're not oxygen breathing. They derive their energy differently, and that's a good sign of how weird it must be on other planets too.
Yeah, and also if you want to talk about other planets, I think most of the planets that we're aware of that exist in like a Goldilocks zone that are able to inhabit life are water worlds.
So far, I don't think we've been able to characterize the exoplanets that are outside the solar system, but we do know that the moons of, I think there's Europa and Enceladus for Saturn and Jupiter. I forgot which one's which.
The moon. Yeah.
They're both ice covered, and they have liquid underneath. And so NASA has actually been funding our ocean exploration program, NOAA's, for that purpose, to develop the engineering methods to basically put a deep diving ROV on a probe that can land on the surface, drill through the ice, and then go explore the under the ice oceans of those two. Interesting, huh?
Wow, that is fascinating.
Yeah, and we're making so many rapid advances in commercial space, and you look how easy it is to get into space now with what SpaceX has provided.
Yeah,
that we might see that in our lifetime.
I want to know why we haven't gone back to the moon.
That's interesting. Well, obviously you could see it's hard, and I think it's mostly because the government is big and slow, and we've just burdened ourselves with bureaucracy. And I'm pretty much happy with some of the things the current president's doing, but
they keep pushing it back every single year.
Well, but again, I think commercial space industry is gonna they're gonna do it. And in fact, we already had I forgot what was the company that just put a probe on the moon. This is going to happen. It's going to explode in the next decade of commercial companies going out there. China's doing it, by the way. So
to the moon.
Yeah. So hopefully we can get this Artemis program on step. But it's frustrating for those of us who want to see more space exploration.
Yeah, it's definitely strange. It's like the Apollo program is the only technological program ever developed by any country or company that has not grown at all or not grown exponentially since it was conceived of.
Yeah, that's
right.
A odd
Like
thing.
look at every other thing. Look at every other technological advancement in the history of man. Like whether it be war tech or consumer tech, it's all. If you compare it to what it was in the 70s, it's all like look at the phone.
Yeah.
You know?
So did you ever have anyone on your show who said that the whole moon mission was a fabrication?
Yeah, Bart Cybrell. I've had
That's
him on.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you convinced?
I think if I had a gun to my head, I would say it was faked.
Would you? Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's complicated. I think that it's possible that also if they did make it, if they did go, I think they probably had a backup plan, like backup footage of it. Or like even if they did go, maybe they weren't able to get the cameras and the film through the radiation belt, right? It could have been destroyed by the radiation. So it's like we went, but how do we prove it? Well, let's get this soundstage and let's record some stuff and make it look like we went.
Yeah.
You know, there's just so many questions, and like the way, like I have people come on here all the time and tell me completely obscene, like crazy, outlandish things that they come with evidence for it and it seems compelling and reasonable. And then I'll have somebody come in and then completely show me how that's all full, complete bullshit and preposterous and with counter evidence. But the moon one is one that I haven't seen any plausible counter evidence or hard evidence to refute what like the skeptics say.
Okay.
So like until I can get an Apollo astronaut on here to like debate him, I don't know. I'm still up in the air with it. I don't know.
It's funny because I lean towards it happened, but the more I get into this UAP topic and the government cover-up, the more I'm inclined to believe almost anything in terms of the government fabricating a story.
Yeah, right. The problem
because there's all this national interest for doing so. We wouldn't want the Russians to make us think that we weren't ahead of them.
Right.
There's a ton of reason to do that. And the more I watch the government and having played in it at the high level I was at NOAA, I see how that spin doctoring occurs every day.
Right.
And it's a fine line between what is promoting American greatness versus what's lying about what we're really doing.
Sure.
There's
There's big questions, man. I mean, it's for one thing, there's so much stigma attached to questioning the moon landing. You're automatically a fool if you
or you're
question
un-American
it. Completely.
Yeah.
And the other thing about it is that time, smack dab in the middle of the Cold War, when the American government, when JFK was killed, when we were doing MK Ultra experiments with drugs on people to do mind control, and Watergate, I mean, you name it. We were doing more. The U.S. government and intelligence agencies were doing more deception and lying to the American people than ever before in recorded history.
Very good point.
And the moon landing happened right in the middle of it. So is that the only thing that they did that was legit?
I mean, there's a pretty strong record of lying to the public right there. You just brought up.
Totally.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would love to. And then the other day I watched this crazy documentary called Room 237, I think it's called. By Stan. It's a documentary all about the hidden Easter eggs inside of the Shining movie.
What?
Because so this is crazy. So
we're addicts of that movie, by the way. My family. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So Room 237 is a documentary about The Shining, and Stanley Kubrick allegedly implemented some hidden messages in that movie.
Really?
So these people that made this documentary, I think for sure, they're making connections that don't exist. They're going way too far with it. But there are maybe 25 to 30% of the things in that documentary that I think are totally legit. For instance, there's this shot. So room 237, basically in that movie, that's what they call the moon room. So all this stuff happens in that room that doesn't happen anywhere else. It's 237, which was in the 70s and the 70s and 80s. We thought it was exactly 237,000 miles to the moon. Since then, we've developed better sensing equipment to figure out it's like 900 more miles than that. We were like 1,000 miles off. And then there's also the thing like the manager of the hotel looks just like John F. Kennedy in that movie. There's weird sort of inconsistencies with the continuity in that movie where there's like obvious things where the carpet pattern changes from one shot to the other and other things disappear. And like he's arguing with his wife about, don't you know about contracts? Don't you know about secrecy? He's fighting with his wife about living these two separate lives, and what they're speculating is that Stanley Kubrick's using this as like he's using that movie to like sort of like tell people what really happened. And there's also a famous photo that you can find if you dig hard enough, Steve. I was showing this to Rogan the other day of Stanley Kubrick on the set of 2001: A Space Odyssey, walking between the sound stages in Europe, and Jolly West is behind him. Walking behind him.
Jolly West is
the CIA guy who was a part of MK Ultra.
Oh, right.
I think he was a psychologist, a CIA psychologist. I could be wrong, but he was doing stuff with drugs. He was basically
yes.
He was a part of the whole MK Ultra thing. Find out what his actual title was. I don't want to mess it up. But he was there for MK Ultra, and he was there. He was the guy who interviewed Jack Ruby.
Oh, right.
Right before he had the psychotic break. So Jolly West is a very scary person.
Interesting.
Who was involved in a lot of the most like deceptive things that ever happened. No, that's not it, Steve. Jamie found it in 5 minutes, Steve. Come on. You can do it.
I had the biggest underwater drone fleet in the Navy. Yes. Yeah. That over 120, and there's more.
What do they look like?
So this is kind of my business right now. I'm a tech consultant for underwater, mostly ocean technology, but space too.
Okay.
And I've advised a whole bunch of ocean drone companies, surface, undersea, and there's a whole range of types. The types I owned were oceanographic, so they were long endurance. They're called gliders. So they have a thing called buoyancy propulsion, where they use an air bladder to change basically the buoyancy, so it goes up and down, and you throw some wings on it.
Whoa, that thing's spooky.
So that's an article I wrote. That's pretty cool. That is the Manta, a DARPA developed ocean drone. Yeah.
DARPA developed ocean drone.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. That is a badass looking drone. I don't think it's operational, but I'd like it to be. So,
wow.
Yeah. But and the other piece is a paper, article I wrote on ocean drones, a revolution.
We're turning into the aliens ourselves.
I know, exactly right. That's the interesting conversion. We're not. Are we the origins of all these NHIs, and we're just seeing our relatives?
I think so.
I think we are.
I think so. That's my favorite hypothesis out of all of them, is the time traveler one. I think that's the most compelling one. I know it's hard. I know there's a lot of people to try to debunk it, and there's a lot of questionable holes in it. But goddamn, just with like the history of human beings and our evolution and like the way we're going is like dropping sperm counts, dropping testosterone, fertility rate dropping off a cliff. And are you familiar with Michael Masters, his extraterrestrial hypothesis? Like if you look at all the abduction accounts of taking sperm and eggs from people, if there was some sort of cataclysm in the future, they would want to come back in time to replenish their population in the future with sperms and eggs of people in the past. And goddamn, that's interesting.
Heck yeah. And I tell you, my wife and I, we both are into this topic together. And it's an interesting journey we've been on. And I can tell you how it started. But quickly, we would have thought 2 years ago, this is all a bunch of BS, abductions and all this. But man, now that we've met abductees, and we've read John Mack's book, by the way, which is really heavy, and The Communion by Whitley Strieber, we've met him. They're documenting all. So when Whitley wrote the book, he got all these letters, and they're all housed by people who said they had the same experience, and they're all housed at this place called the Archive of the Impossible at Rice University. And the director of that is Jeffrey Kripal, Dr. Kripal, who's another interesting guy you might want to have on your show.
He's been here.
Great guy. And I actually, let's follow up after this. All these people I recommended, I'm personally in touch with. And if I say you should go on Danny's show, they'll probably go on your show.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, Jeffrey's amazing. I love him.
Yeah.
So back to your drones. I want to see your drones. You're a consultant for tech companies that are developing these underwater drones. Are these them?
Look for Ocean Glider, Steve.
Ocean Glider. Okay, what is the purpose of these drones? What's their function?
It's oceanography. So long endurance sensing of the ocean.
Okay.
And it's really relevant. So I had 120 of these, a big fleet, always out. That's one right there.
Oh, cool. Like torpedoes.
Yeah, that's what they look like. And see that antenna at the end, what they do is they do basically a zigzag up and down the water column. So change the buoyancy. You have 2 wings, so that allows forward propulsion with the seawater hydrodynamics. And once they make a down and up profile, the antenna pops on the surface and sends the signal up by SATCOM, and all gets fed into our ocean models, which are used by surface forces doing undersea warfare or anti-submarine warfare. So you have to know, just like weather and its impacts on radar and visual satellite communication imaging, the ocean has weather.
Yes.
And so, this, you're a surfer. So currents, sea state, salinity differences all affect the speed of sound. So there are areas of the ocean that
Steve, these are all China ones. Can you find his?
Just find the American one. God, it's look at Naval Oceanographic
What's
Office.
the name of your company again?
Look at the Naval Oceanographic Office.
Okay.
That's
Naval
what-
Oceanographic Office.
And that's funny. Ultimately, there's a story there. So when I had that fleet of ocean drones, and we had brought the head of the Navy, Chief of Naval Operations, John Richardson, to see them all, and he said, "Great, you should be doing this. We need to do more autonomy." A short time after that, 2015 or so, you might have heard the news. Maybe it was 2016 when China seized one of our ocean drones. Do you remember that?
I do remember
Yes.
that.
And Trump even tweeted about it.
Yes.
I forgot what he tweeted and said, but that got the news, right? And what happened, it was interesting. I never got that's good. There you go. That's exactly what we're talking about. And so I never got a call saying by anybody in my chain of command, "What are you doing? Why'd you put your drone out there?" They wanted us to be doing that. So they actually screwed up. And we use that to basically highlight all their negative and malign activity in the Pacific. And so we got a lot of good press out of that. And they quickly returned it to us. And what we think is that it was a lower level commander of a ship who saw it surface and thought, "Oh, we should get this. This will be a prize. The leadership of the Communist Party will be so pleased." And of course, it was an international incident and made them look really bad. So it was.
And it was designed that way.
No, what I'm saying is I think they screwed up. I don't think they made China look bad, not us.
Right, but we intended for them to.
Not really.
Oh, okay,
no.
okay.
So it was just doing its job.
I see.
We didn't throw it out. Now, partially because it was in the South China Sea, and that's an area that we want to know the ocean really well, because if Taiwan is going to get invaded, we're going to have to put our submarine forces and special operations forces there to keep that blockade from happening.
Have you heard of that base called Diego Garcia?
Yes, of course.
What is that place all about? The place looks crazy.
Well, it's
Pull up a photo of Diego Garcia.
It's it's a strategic base, right, in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
I've heard people call it the Area 51 of the Indian Ocean.
I don't know anything about that. So
Sure, Tim.
No, I'll be honest with you, because if there was something I couldn't say, I'd tell you.
Okay.
I would. I'd be on. Yeah, but it's a strategic asset. I think we based long-range bombers there at different times. And in fact, if I recall,
So find like a satellite photo of it. There you go. Look at that. Crazy. So they pull submarines inside there. It's a perfect little, like a circular island that you can park ships inside of, so they're safe.
So those are called atolls.
Atolls, right? Okay.
And they're formed when let's say an island or a kind of volcanic formed island starts to subside geologically, and the fringing reef around that island continues to build up over time. It takes millennia, but
We did all the nuclear tests at atolls, right? Like
we did
Bikini Atoll.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah,
And they're perfect because it's like a safe haven from the ocean.
that's right. These are great bases, of course, and that's why the Japanese seized them all in the Pacific
Right.
at the outset of World War II. They had a lot of value, and then we went and retook them. So this is a very valuable asset.
What a crazy place to be stationed too.
Yeah, I have a good buddy. He's in my book, actually, because he's a mentor of mine. His name was Admiral Tim McGee, and he was stationed there for a while. And surfer like you, and surfed a lot there during that tour.
On the atoll?
Yeah.
Wow.
Same with, I don't know if you've ever been to Guam.
No.
Especially when you got a typhoon out there, Guam can have some good surf.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, for sure. I've seen it.
Dang, man.
Yeah, the Pacific Islands, for sure. And great scuba diving.
Oh, I bet it's probably incredible there.
So we actually have a special project I can't talk about to go somewhere that your podcast has talked about. I'll just say that, a ancient site underwater.
An ancient site underwater that I've talked about.
Yeah.
So
So
with man-made stuff
I'm just
underwater.
we're gonna go map it and put an ROV on it.
Okay.
And try to date it and confirm its existence. And I'll leave you at that.
There was a story that came out I heard recently. Who told me this? That I don't know if this was like special information I shouldn't talk about publicly. But I heard that there was an article. There was an article in the Jerusalem Post actually about they're making some sort of a movie about a discovery off the coast of Spain. They think it could be Atlantis.
I saw that. Was it Spain?
I think it was off the coast of Spain.
Yeah, I read about that, and I don't think it's right.
Why not?
Well, and this is if you read that's it.
This is it, yeah.
If you read
Cadiz.
Plato's dialogues, where all that information he puts out a lot of information on the very specific location of it, and so I don't think it was that close to Spain.
No. According to what Plato wrote, it was most likely. What is that chain of islands called? What's the chain of islands called? That's off the coast. It's kind of off the coast of Spain. It's like in the Atlantic, Azores, the Azores. My buddy Randall Carlson, who talks a lot about this stuff, he's been trying to put together an expedition to go out to the Azores for a while. It's a fascinating looking place. That would be a fun place to scuba dive.
Yeah.
The problem with the Atlantis stuff is that, are you familiar with the chain of transmission?
No.
With Atlantis?
No.
It's insane. Steve, I don't know if you ever saved this photo, but we've gone over this many times. The chain of transmission with Plato it starts with it basically, from the time Plato wrote about it, he was told about it from somebody like 100 years before that. I think it was Pliny the Younger.
That's right.
And then Pliny the Elder was like 100 years before that. And then apparently the gap between Solon and the person Solon got it from was like 1,000 years or something like this. So it's like 1,000 years of verbal, basically, transmission, never written down once until Plato. And then, an oral history going back 1,500 years is crazy. Oh, there we go. Beautiful. So, okay, number one, the destruction of Atlantis, 9,000 years before Solon. So the oral history of 1,000 years, written down by the Egyptians, this is confusing, 8,000 years before Solon, it was written down. So there's 1,000-year gap between when Atlantis was allegedly destroyed from the Cretaceous and when it was first written about. So no actual writing of this from Egypt. The priest reads records, years pass, then tells it by memory to Solon without consulting any written records. Solon tells his relative Dropides. Dropides tells it to his son Cretias the Elder. At age 90, he tells his Cretias the Younger. And then the younger tells Socrates 50 years later, and then Plato writes it down. So this is so it's basically like 7,000 years of just oral transmission of the stories before he writes about it. Which is like maybe, but it's really fascinating. And Plato was known for, he was not a historical writer. He was a philosophical writer, and he wrote about hypothetical war games and things like the allegory of the cave, and he was writing about hypothetical thought experiments, things like this.
Well, yes, and
not to discredit, not to say that there absolutely could be some remnants of a lost underwater city or civilization, just the way that the climate has changed over millennia, since before the Younger Dryas, the Pleistocene, and like the lowering of the sea level, it's very, very likely that there could be ancient cities that are under the oceans.
100%. And actually, have you ever heard of the Silurian hypothesis?
I think so.
Steve, check it out, Silurian. I believe it's this idea that the Earth is so old that there would have been enough time for an advanced civilization to have existed millions of years ago, and that there'd be no sign of it in the geological record because of millennia of all the geologic and volcanic and cataclysmic processes that occur here. So if you just do the math, like Avi's done, there could be intelligent technology civilizations that have already formed here and become extinct.
Right, totally.
And why not? I think ultimately I want to see some data on Atlantis, and I have a few leads, but and I'll just leave it at that. But then there's even the idea of going farther back, and maybe you've had some folks on your shows that have found, for example, metals and objects that were in parts of the geologic strata that they never should have been. I forgot the exact examples of that, but there are a few out there. Very odd.
Yeah, this says the core idea is the hypothesis questions if a civilization capable of industrial activity could have risen and fallen on Earth before humans, and if so, how we might find evidence of it. That's the problem, is there's no toasters in the desert. We can't find any ancient toasters, but we do have the megalithic blocks. We do have the Great Pyramids.
So this is our discussion before. Yeah, you go, if you've been to the Louvre, or have you been to Egypt?
I've never been there.
Have you been to the Louvre?
I have been to the Louvre.
So you've seen the Egyptian carvings, stone carvings, and it's just as you said earlier, they didn't have the tools to do that.
Right.
Did Giorgiani on your show talk about his hypothesis, for example, of ancient stone structures and Atlantis specifically?
He's got a lot of crazy hypotheses, but hypotheses, I don't know how you say that.
That's right.
One of his is that the pyramids are like time travelers going back and like creating this stuff to like try to communicate with us. I get lost in some of this stuff.
Yeah, he's interesting, but I did like his Atlantis, I guess, explanation. And then he in this show,
remind me what it was.
He thought that the Atlanteans had developed a form of collective consciousness that, and when you start looking at psi phenomena, and you extend it to a civilization, his thought was that large stone structures could be carved and transported with a collective conscious mental, like psychokinesis, en masse effect. And I'm just starting to look at this whole thing because it's coming out now as we talk about NHI and UAP and
like levitation.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%. And the actual carving of the stones. I mean, you've had on guests who have said that they did not have the Egyptians and others before did not. What's the Göbekli Tepe?
Yeah.
They didn't have. What do they have to do that? They did not have the metals to do that.
This is the most fascinating stuff to me. Have you seen these?
No.
This is a 3D print, obviously, of a real granite vase that was found underneath the Step Pyramid.
Granite.
One of the hardest stones known to man. And there's multiple. There's one over there. That's another 3D print. I have a friend of mine who bought a bunch of these on the antiquities market, and they were confirmed, created 4,000 years ago, between 4 and 5,000 years ago, when conventional Egyptologists say the Egyptians were carving stuff using flint chisels and pounding stones. That's all they had.
That's right.
And now you have granite, the hardest stone on the earth. They took these vases that are made of granite, and they measured them in a light scanner at a huge aerospace company. It might have been Rolls-Royce.
Yeah, what was the precision in terms of the?
It was they were
symmetry,
perfectly symmetrical, and the deviation.
Yeah.
The biggest deviation was like less than the width of a human hair.
Yeah, yeah.
And
that looks machined.
100%.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider the fact that these handles are built into it.
Wow. Yeah.
The handles are part of the whole entire piece of granite, right? And you look inside the actual vases, and you can see little tiny lined machine marks etched in the granite, like it was built on a CNC machine.
Oh wow.
But they know, people have there's been people that are studying this right now, who I'm currently talking to, that are talking to all the biggest granite manufacturers, people in China who are contracted to use CNC machines to print stuff on computers, and they say there's no way they could recreate something like this
With granite.
Wow. So how did they do that 5,000 years ago?
That's right.
If it was 5,000 years ago, it might be way older. I don't think there's any way to carbon date it. But there's so many questions, man. It just doesn't line up. I mean, just the idea that we're on this linear timeline, and that we started as cavemen, and hundreds of thousands of years ago, and it was a linear progression ever since then, is I think that's been debunked big time. Especially there's just so much evidence contrary to that.
Have you had any remote viewers on your show?
I've had a few.
You
remote
have.
Viewers,
I saw that. Well, it turns out my wife is taking a course, and one of the original remote viewers is Paul Smith, and he was in the Army, and he did this work, I believe, for the CIA, and he has a book out. It's basically the guide to remote viewing, and this has been really interesting. Okay, so how does it work? Well, I don't know, but it works because if you read his book and some of the work by Joe McMoneagle, he's also, any of his interviews are really terrific because he lays it out there. And so my wife's been taking these courses, and it's very deliberate and methodical how they do that, the course. And she's she's basically gotten what they call hits. She's had the I mean, we're talking. What they do is they'll have a scene, and they'll give her coordinates, and they have a clear image. They have a picture from it, and then they teach her a protocol on how to basically channel, or for lack of a better word, where that is, what's there, and she's done this probably 7 or 8 times, and on almost every time she's gotten it right, and it's been these complex either buildings, landscapes, and she has described them. You can't make it up. And so it's been fun to watch because everybody has the ability. And when they teach you the protocol about how to, it's non-local communication and information transfer, which is nothing unusual if you accept the fact that quantum mechanics and physics is real.
Right.
That's non-local communication and information transfer, that our minds have the same ability. And in fact, there was a guy named Alexander Wendt who wrote a book about this called Social Science and the Quantum Mind, I believe it's called. And he looks into this idea that we're basically wave functions. If you study quantum mechanics and the fact that an observer will collapse the wave function to
the observer effect. Yeah.
That's right, and that's what we are really.
Yeah. Have you heard Giorgiani's theory on this?
No, tell me.
He's got this theory that reconciles that with the simulation.
Oh, that's another one. Okay.
Yeah. So there's this guy named Claude Shannon, who was the one who developed the idea of transmitting data, like bits, binary bits. And that was after the Turing computer in the 40s, after we first developed computers. And then there's this other guy named Rolf Landauer who came up with a theory that data on a hard drive has mass.
Yeah.
So the way he explains that is using like the 2 laws of thermodynamics. One of them, that energy can never be created or destroyed, only transferred. And the other one is entropy always goes up in a closed system in our universe. disorder, it always increases. Hence, like the heat death of the universe. So if you take those laws, that entropy always goes up, and that energy and mass are interconvertible, and energy is never created or destroyed, it's only transferred. If you have a blank hard drive, it's going to be all ones or all zeros before you encode data, before you store data on it. Then it becomes high entropy disorder, a chaotic mess of ones and zeros on that hard drive, right? So what happens if you erase 100 terabytes off of this hard drive? It goes from chaos, ones and zeros, to all zeros, all ones. The entropy goes down, which according to the law of thermodynamics, it can't happen. That has to be transferred out of the hard drive. So if you do have all the data on the hard drive, it would be theoretically, according to Landauer, and you could weigh it. And if we had tools to weigh those hard drives, he thinks that all the hard drives across the face of the earth right now and all the server farms, all the data on every single hard drive would be like a kilogram right now.
Oh boy.
But like every year, the data storage goes up 25%. Now, if you add in exponential growth, like reaching the technological singularity, how much that's going to grow, it's going to be, we don't know what that's going to be. But if you keep it stable at 25% growth every year, he theorized in like 340 years, we're going to have the mass of the moon on the surface of the earth in data stored on hard drives, right? So here's the crazy way. Here's where it gets crazy. If you crack open a hard drive, when it has all this data stored on it, you can't see anything. You can't see the mass. You can't see the data, right? So if the stuff on the hard drive is actually mass, and if you can weigh it, and it actually, is mass, and it's electromagnetically indetectable, he says, what other kind of mass do we know of that is not detectable electromagnetically? Dark matter. Because we looked at the spins of the galaxies, we looked at like the center of the galaxy, the spin is the same as the outer rim of the galaxy when it should be faster on the inside. So they're saying that dark matter has mass, that's flattening the spin rate of all these galaxies. So he's saying if dark matter is the same thing as mass on a hard drive, that means mass, energy, and information are all interconvertible, not just mass and energy.
Yeah.
So that means dark matter is a computational cloud. And our consciousness, we're using consciousness as a fundamental way to interact with that, the same way you use a computer screen to interact with a hard drive.
So I was just talking to my wife about this.
And he thinks that reconciles perfectly with parapsychology and stuff like ESP.
That's right. And in fact, I forgot the researcher. Karen told me, and I don't remember. There's a paper out there, there's probably many, about weighing someone's brain before they die and after they die. And it weighs less after they die. And this isn't anything about the fluids and whatever. It's energy and mass are equivalent, and you have energy as a conscious entity, and that somehow that energy gets transferred somewhere, and you can measure it in the mass equivalent.
Wow.
Yes, and we haven't gotten into this part yet, but I'm 100% certain that human consciousness survives physical death. I don't have any doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
And I know this for a lot of reasons, and that have all sort of just a big series of events and things I've read, and I again, there's so much in other religions that embrace this, and so this is again like UAP. People think this is so fantastic in the mainstream media and the mainstream science world, where almost every civilization has embraced it.
Yeah,
and we're only now coming back to that.
Yeah,
and this is all being studied. Bigelow studied it. And then there's the University of Virginia's Division of Perceptual Studies, DOPS. I think that's the right name of it. This is what they do. They have scientists that are dedicated to studying this whole phenomena, which is really fascinating. And again, I have actual proof. I know we had a life experience that caused us to come into contact with a number of mediums, and they are all so accurate that you can't make it up. You can't accidentally arrive at the things they know. In fact, I know several of them. They're they're not charlatans. They're not doing this to make money. They have a gift. They could connect to that. And there's a weird interplay, again, with NHI, and I don't know how that fits, but and in fact, Jacques Vallée in the Invisible College talks about this parapsychological, paranormal element of UAP.
Yeah.
I don't understand it all yet, but I know what I've seen, and yes.
There's definitely something there. And the simulation aspect to it, if you look at the observer effect and you say that, when the wave function collapses and you see things only when you're observing them, do they actually happen? I mean, that makes perfect sense in a video game because it's conserving processing power. When you're in one room in a video game, the outside of it is not being rendered until you actually go there, right? And that also works perfectly with Sheldrake's morphic resonance, right? If one problem is solved in one part of the world, like if one person breaks a world record in France, there are going to be 5 more people breaking that same world record in the next couple years somewhere else. So back to this underwater stuff. If the leader of the free world was to go to you and say, we need to figure out a way to ensure the survival of our species in the case of a thermonuclear war or a cosmic cataclysm, and we need to do it underwater, or maybe not, maybe they don't even say that. Would you think or suggest that underwater would be the best case scenario for something like that?
It would be a top contender. I mean, underwater or under the land, and I don't know. It could be either, but we couldn't live on the surface because of the radiation. So we'd have to find a way. And I think the water's a good buffer for that.
It would be much easier underground, right?
I don't know about that. I guess depending on very deep in the ocean is hard to get to. But interestingly, I'm working with a company called Deep that is building undersea habitats. And so this is not just theoretical. They're building these mostly for tourism, dive tourism and recreation. But this is something that can be done. We have the engineering behind it. People have proven it. Funny thing about the space program, I got to meet Scott Carpenter, who was one of the Mercury astronauts. And he happens to be the only one that I know of that also was a aquanaut. So he lived in Sea Lab for a while off the La Jolla coastline in California and set some human undersea endurance record. But and I asked him about that, and I said, how do you compare space exploration and ocean exploration? And he told me that they don't compare. Space is all glorious and shiny, and it's very quick. You go up in a space mission in just a few days. But when you're underwater, it's cold and dark, and everything breaks. And I laughed because he made it sound like space was a cakewalk, and the ocean was the real challenge.
Yeah.
And what's funny about that is that if you remember Kennedy's speech at Rice, when he challenged America to go into space, he talked about, we do these things not because they're easy, but because they're hard. So he was saying, space is hard, but we're going to do it. And I got the astronauts to tell me, yeah, but the ocean's a lot harder. However, I'm seeing a lot of ocean innovators like this Deep company that's making it happen. Victor made it happen in his submersible. He dived all the 5 deep trenches.
Right.
And that was just extraordinary. Not like the Ocean Gate disaster and that submersible which collapsed because they didn't do the right engineering. In fact, Victor and I know 2 of the people that were on that sub.
Really?
Yeah. There was Pierre Nargelet. Victor knows him well. I met him. And then there was Hamish Harding, explorer, went into space with Victor. I met him at the Explorers Club. And it was just so disappointing because Victor had warned them. That engineering of that is not proven. They never did a test in a tank like Victor did. There's only one tank in the world that can pressure depth to full ocean depth.
Really?
It's in Russia, but Victor did it because he knew he had to do that to ensure he was safe to go down.
So it's like a big pool that they can increase the pressure.
It's a tank. Yeah, it's all enclosed. They increase the pressure. They simulate 7 miles down, and they did it. And they proved that the pressure hull of the submersible could withstand that pressure.
Do they do this with full size like battle subs?
Well, I don't know. I think they're
small.
No, submarines, submersibles that do that are smaller. Submarines don't go down more than a few hundred feet.
Oh, really?
No, they don't
How
need.
deep? What's the deepest
First
a
of all,
nuclear sub could go?
It's classified, but it's several hundred feet.
Several hundred.
Several hundred feet. And ultimately, though, because that's all we really need to operate. Why would you go deeper when the targets you care about are no deeper than you are? There are other subs and ships.
We need to get windows on those subs too, so they can see the UFOs flying.
That's
around.
right.
The USOs.
All right, I'm gonna do something about that.
We need to, or get some sort of technology where you can make the metal transparent or something, translucent. You know?
Yeah, I want to. In fact, I know the science advisor to the president, Michael Kratsios, and I've asked him, and I'm going to ask him again. Every year, the Office of Science and Technology Policy in the White House puts out an annual research and development priorities memorandum. And I've seen it. I've contributed to it. I always put ocean things on it when I was at NOAA. But I've asked him to start considering UAP and USO research so that if he puts it in the memo, that means all the federal agencies that do stuff either in the atmosphere or ocean have to start studying them. So if I were to get him to do that, that means NOAA would start researching USOs, as well as ONI and my old organization, the Naval Oceanographic Office.
Do you think that there's actual underwater bases that these crafts are going to?
So I saw you had Richard Dolan on, who is a friend of mine, and I like him a great deal.
He's incredible.
Yeah,
that book.
That book is awesome.
There's 600 witness accounts.
Oh, I've read through most of it. Yeah, it's
the one from the 1700s, the ship.
Yeah,
was insane.
I saw you talk to him about that.
Yeah,
and yes. So, well, I don't know, but we know they're in the water a lot, and they come from the water, go into the water. We just saw the Omaha. Where do they go? They have to. If we know that, and by the way, we don't know much about the ocean. So if we're seeing them come from the ocean and go in, and we've only explored 10% of the ocean volume and 25% of the seafloor, there's a pretty good bet that more research into explore the ocean might teach us a whole lot more about USOs and UAP.
And where do you think, if you were them, would be the best place to hide your base?
Well,
Antarctica?
Well, all these places that people aren't. Yes, exactly.
Right.
But the weird thing is that this big hotspot is off SoCal. You might know
that is weird. Yeah, Catalina
It's
Island.
highly populated. What's going on there? And in fact, I have a friend who is. I have a friend. One.
You too.
Yes, exactly. And his daughter is going to the Naval Academy on the swim team with my daughter, and so we're proud of them. And he was a Naval Academy graduate in my wife's class, and became an F-14 and F-18 pilot, and just retired. And so credible guy and knows about military capabilities. And his wife has seen them over the Catalina Channel repeatedly, in broad daylight.
Wow.
Yeah, and so this is what's happened. Is so many people are coming to me, credible people, average citizens, former military personnel, all with their stories. And I've had dozens of this. So it's happening more than you'd think.
So when you were in front of Congress and they were asking you all these questions and you were saying stuff like, yeah, I have this answer, but I can't tell you unless we're in a private setting or in a skiff or whatever. What do you know?
If I can't tell them, I wouldn't tell you. But it's really
do you know shit that can put all these questions to rest?
No. So I wasn't involved with any UFO UAP programs. I was not read in.
Okay.
So the reason I talk about this now is I had my eyewitness account of the Go Fast video, and Ryan, and I had people supporting Ryan's squadron who was seeing these all the time. And here I am. I'm a Navy retired admiral, and people like Fravor and Alex Dietrich and Ryan are speaking out, and this petty officer Alex Wiggins, and I just felt these courageous folks deserve top cover.
Right.
They deserve someone like me, a retired admiral, because no one else is. I don't know why, but to say this is credible, this is a real thing. It deserves attention and research.
So the stuff that you were telling them, I guess I imagine that you did eventually tell them what they were asking you in a private setting. Well, this stuff was secondhand accounts that were explained to you by other people.
Yes, yes. And these are people I trust. In fact, as I told you, I knew people who touched the Legacy program. I know them. And many of them are out already. Eric Davis, Hal Putoff, Jay Stratton was not in the Legacy program, but he led the UAP task force. So he's seen a ton of UAP information that's not been declassified, and I trust him. Lou Elizondo, I trust him too. So these have all been in the mix, Carl Nell, and we're all saying the same thing. There's a lot of information that's being withheld from the public. Some of it should be released, and the full story.
And what's stopping all this from being released? Like what?
It's the classification issue. Is we're too afraid.
What are people scared of?
Well, it's the government not really thinking it's good policy to say we can't protect our citizens, our airspace, our water space. That's a tough one to overcome.
Sure, I understand that.
And I'm not sure how they resolve that myself. Again, I'm here from the standpoint that the American people, we're a government by the people, for the people, that they deserve to know the nature of reality. And the government knows it. They should disclose some of that to our taxpayers.
And what is to stop like any of these people who have this top secret information like from just coming out and saying it? Like what? Like other than losing your career, right?
Jail time.
You could go to jail.
Oh yeah, these are all.
But wouldn't that just confirm it? If I came out tomorrow and I was part of some like deep access program.
What we're talking about is, and I've signed these myself. You get read into a program, and you have a non-disclosure form that says, I acknowledge that if I divulge any of the information in this program, and it's a prerequisite before getting into the program. So you might not even know you're getting read into a UAP program. It might be, hey, we want to have you know about this because of your responsibilities, and we think you have a need to know. So first, before you get read in, sign this. And it says, I won't do anything or I can go to jail.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. And actually, yes.
But the problem with that is in the public's eye, if you do come out and say some crazy stuff that I'm claiming this is true, and then you get thrown into jail, people are going to say, oh my God, it's true. They threw him in jail.
Yeah.
If it was bullshit, why would they put him in jail?
Well, so the good thing here is these, I don't know if they've been passed yet, but maybe I know that Burchett has introduced some whistleblower protection legislation to get around that.
And I've heard some of that's been subverted too.
Yeah.
Like some of the whistleblower protection groups or fundraisers that people have been putting together are just like intelligence operations, just to as a fly trap for whistleblowers.
I'm pretty sure of it. Yeah.